How's it going? Ether, you can't be tired already. Hello, welcome back to the Narzissenkreuz Ordo. This is a mysterious location that we came to, coming through a book in the Institute of Natural Philosophy last time. And we met up with 3 of our friends. We met up with Anne, the little Sheanid over here. Hello, Anne. And then we met up with Seymour, the robotic dog. Hello, Seymour. And then we met up with Caterpillar. Where's Caterpillar? Hello, Caterpillar. Our hilly trail turned human friend. Hello. And we've sort of learned that their stories might be more intertwined. None of them really knew each other at first, but now we realize their stories are all connected to the Narzissenkreuz Ordo, and they each have some connection to here that might be, well, actually, I don't really know what we're doing. Actually, no, we do. We know that there's some sort of impending apocalypse, that there's this doomsday clock up here is indicating towards. And they've all somehow come here for their own reasons. Anne has these memories of another life. And she was realizing once we met with another character, Marianne, that she seems to be the sort of some manifestation of Marianne's will and desire to go live out her dreams and fantasies of exploring and, saving princesses and dragons and all of that. That created Anne. Marianne seems to be a central character to the Narzissenkreuz Ordo. We have Seymour here, who's Marianne's guard dog, and Seymour and Anne seem to have some sort of connection, even though they've never met. Probably because they are looking for the same person, and that Anne has Marianne's memories. And then we have Caterpillar, who had once met Narcissus, of whom I assume the Narzissenkreuz Ordo is named after, who taught him some magic on how to take a human appearance. Anyway, all of these characters have their own motivations and their own stories, yet have all ended up here to gather in this place and do their own research. And now there seems to be an impending catastrophe, separate from the other impending catastrophe that we averted in Fontaine with the primordial waters. I would have thought that this doomsday clock would be pointing to that, but apparently it's pointing just a little bit off. It's almost at, I guess this would be midnight, but it's a doomsday clock. A separate tragedy is about to unfold, and it looks like we need to solve it. So yeah, I guess that's where we're at so far. Not 100% sure. I guess we got some achievements from last time. A study in Sable. Find a more special subject of the Institute of Natural Philosophy study. I don't know exactly which thing that was referring to. We did a lot last episode. And yes, the fountain is now done. Yay! So if I'm not mistaken, I think if I just wait some more time, everybody should be ready to start chatting about what they've learned over the course of their own happenings and going-ons. So that's good. Okay, look, it looks like we're doing good. Night Teddy, Paimon, you're back. You bet we are. Have you found anything new in the meantime? Mr. Caterpillar and I have been doing some research. Ooh, and? We've discovered that Seymour doesn't, in fact, have an annihilation mode. Following data fragment sorting, this phrase was found to have been derived from the novel Prisoner 6, Overrun. In that book, the World Organization launched a mass annihilation agent to hunt a chimera down. Wait, that stuff's not important at all. Apart from using our free time to go out and investigate, we've also read through the books collected here one more time. We couldn't make heads or tails of them at first, and even now, well, they certainly are well written. I don't know whose handwriting it is, or what scribe or copyist was hired, but their penmanship is clear and clearly beautiful. A master of calligraphy if I ever saw one. Wait, so you were talking about the handwriting? Paimon's got a bad feeling about this already. Did you not try to find anything during this time then? All right, sorry. I shan't jest any further. As you know, we told you all that we found the last time without holding anything back. However, I fear that this time there are some clues hidden in detail that we must rely on chance to reveal. Chance? Reveal their meaning, you mean? Indeed. For example, if no further revelations concerning a murder emerge, then the blood on a painting will always remain a red smear.
Then what would this chance be, Caterpillar?
Well, why don't we do a quick recap on everything we've discovered? Thank you. I could really use a good recap. By the way, after the last episode, I did go and read through a little bit on the wiki on some of the characters that were mentioned, but not in detail because I started to realize, ooh, this is probably going to get spoilerish. Probably a lot of things are going to get explained in more detail as we go through the quest. But just to refresh my memory on who everybody is and how much we know as of now, let's see. Let's make some deductions regarding what happened in the past. That might give us the opportunity to fill in some gaps that can help us support or refute our views.
That's a good idea. I've always felt like there's so much about this that's familiar, but I can't recall anything about it.
Negative. I can give a continuous account of the resources that I have sorted.
Silly dog. Didn't you already recover your creator's name after talking to us about the matter?
Mechanical noises. Negative. I merely matched similar sounds during said interaction. There was no data loss involved. However, I must append that I, too, find that keyword searches make searching for entries more efficient. Okay, so what are we here to discuss? Well, for a bit of a warm-up, or a teaser if you would. You may be referring to a heater. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. So, let's start off our deductions with something simple. What is the Mary Ann in the Anapausis exactly?
Huh?
That Mary Ann holds the greatest secret of all. I'm sure you can see that too. Let's get ourselves some armchairs, maybe crack open a few beers. Oh wait, you can't drink yet. Well, I mean, we don't know. I mean, Ether is like 500 years old or more, so could be old enough to drink. Anyway, let us help you sort our findings out. I'll start first. Well, the name Marianne itself certainly is familiar to me. The name of the person I was meant to protect is Marianne, yes, but I have no data regarding the identity of the one who resides within the Anapausis. We are missing context. I can only conclude based on a human's unmodified lifespan that they are not the same person.
That would seem to be the case, huh? It's been a few hundred years after all. Well, as for Paimon, she ate chicken mushroom skewer this morning?
Oh, Paimon. Well, guess it's my turn. You mentioned before that you encountered oceanid creatures that had a great deal of character. One might say personality, even. The precondition for such creatures and characters is the same. That an intelligent oceanid has already understood their original forms beforehand. So, were you the one who willed those creatures into being, Anne?
Don't you think that's kind of weird? You know, summoning familiar friends to play house with you for who knows how long and stuff.
Well, I didn't do that.
I actually had to get to know Petit Chon, Al, and the others first.
Well then, in that case, let's see what we can deduce from things we already know. Let's begin.
Huh? It's already starting.
What are we starting? Oh my gosh, this thing again. Okay, I am prepared. Okay, what Paimon ate this morning? Chicken mushroom skewer. At the risk of missing major plot twists or important foreshadowing, I don't think this is related to Anne's background either. Good, that's gone. Oceanic creatures in the Anapausis. Oceanids are sentient creatures unique to Fontaine, and they can create oceanid creatures through mimicry and transformation. I remember all the strange and wonderful oceanid creatures we saw before we met Marianne.
I know, and they all disappeared and turned back into water to help us get into the palace. Or up the palace, I guess.
Okay, that's gone. There are oceanids in Anapausis. Yeah, there are. Maybe Osio can create water creatures, but it's extraordinary to be able to imagine creatures with such rich personalities. it's almost certain that there's an Oceanid in Anapausis controlling everything. Well, there is that big Oceanid that's hugging the tower, right? So that's probably it. Who can she be? Okay, so we're keeping that one. About Anne. Anne is a small Oceanid. She didn't create the Oceanid creatures in Anapausis. Speaking of, just how do Oceanids produce again? The Oceanid Anne. Anne's far too weak to control the whole realm, so she can't be the Oceanid behind it all. Okay. We also know, I guess this is probably unrelated to this story, but we also know that the humans in Fontaine were Oceanids that were transformed into humans by Egeria. And then at the end of the Archon quest, Neuvillette turns them into real humans, using his combined power with Focalors. So, I don't know if that has a connection to this or not. The fact that all the people in Fontaine are technically Oceanids. The name Marianne. Anne said the name sounded familiar. I should ask her about it should something come to mind. To Seymour, she is someone that he must protect. Either way, ordinary humans don't live that long. It's been several hundred years, so they're probably not the same person, right? Okay. The Marianne and Anapausis. The Marianne and Anapausis seems very mysterious. We once suspected Anne was a character from her dreams. Okay. Associate with this. Is not Anne. Oh, the Oceanid in Anapausis is not Anne? Oh, or the Oceanid who's creating is definitely not Anne. Oh, that's a given. At this point, it's definitely not Anne. I believe her. She's also searching for answers. Okay. So Marianne. Marianne is an Oceanid who created all of the mystical things that we encountered in Anapausis. And she pretended not to know, but she probably knew though. Well, she knew about the whole adventure. She was probably involved in that book we read, right? The book with the story of Lyris and all these other characters fighting the dragon Narcissus. It was definitely her, so she probably used her power to make that story come to life. Which is why she was a little bit sad and upset. Not that upset, but sad that we kind of spoiled it for our Oceanid friend Anne here, telling her that the story is not real. The enigmatic Marianne. Marianne, who has the same name as Seymour's owner, and who seems to know everything. Even if she's not an Oceanid, she's probably related to the Oceanid behind all of this. Yeah, and the thing is, she has blue hair, right? Which we saw from the Valyria Mirage was a sign of an Oceanid taking a human appearance. So, that's enough for now. More than enough for a warm-up. Correct. The oddities in Anapausis all point to the power of the Oceanids. But this is not Miss Anne's doing. All of this together means...
There's another Oceanid in Anapausis?
That is what I suspect. An Oceanid with whom Marianne has a close relationship. Or perhaps she could even be the princess herself.
Do you mean to say that Marianne may in fact be Princess Lyris?
Yes, Lyris. The Red Empress of the Narzissenkreuz Ordo from back then. The Red Empress who loves to take heads.
Take heads? I seem to have a vague recollection of something like that. Whoa. But it's not a story about Lyris. Rather, it's a fairy tale about someone named Marianne.
Yes, the taking heads thing is just a metaphor. Lyris is made of pure water, and so has the ability to dissolve and extract people's wills. The Narzissenkreuz Ordo used her to extract the ego and become holy. What does that mean? Searching for keyword Lyris has yielded relevant information in my indices.
Talking of the Red Empress has reminded me of a few things about Marianne.
Mull over that for a while first. Then speak to Miss Anne and Seymour. See if the conclusion you reach awakens any new memories. Whoa. The story is starting to come together. Last episode, I feel like we have so many loose end leads, and I'm not really seeing how they're all coming together. Now suddenly it's all coming together. All right. Hello. Shall I summarize the entries regarding Lyris I possess for you two? All right. Omitting the standard citation format, reconstructing output to match format report to superiors. Lyris is a registered Oceanid. She is not eligible to be stationed in the waters outside Fontaine and has become a special source of information for the nation. She was appointed as the director of an orphanage to symbolize the love and affection of the previous Hydro Archon. The orphanage's affairs were mainly managed by its human vice director.
An orphanage director? Then how is she connected to the Narzissenkreuz Ordo?
So Lyris is 100% an Oceanid. And she was an orphanage director. But not the House of the Hearth orphanage, I'm assuming. A different orphanage. As director, Lyris was quite affectionate towards the children and quite devoted to them. But her intelligence among Oceanids was below average. She wasn't very good at working out the cause and effect of things, nor could she even count. As a result, she was not qualified to perform covert investigations.
Sounds like a big old cat mom who can't count. You know, because cats can't count, so they pick up their kittens one by one and keep going back until they see there aren't any kittens left.
Oh, you're right. Later, the orphanage was destroyed during the calamity, and official records of her stopped there. They say she failed to understand the link between the disaster, the orphans fleeing, and her own conduct, and so she wandered the ruins, drowning in guilt and expectation. I have an underwater locomotive module. Once, Marianne and I dove down to the ruins of the orphanage, whose coordinates were the same as those of Narcissus. Interesting. Okay. See, this is all new information we didn't have before. There, we found an Oceanid swimming sadly in circles. When she next appeared in the records, she was a core member of the Narzissenkreuz Ordo and the subject of a high-priority arrest warrant.
Oh, but she doesn't seem like a bad person. Considering that she might be connected to Anne, she must have been tricked.
Ah, yes. There's an important piece of information worth noting. The orphanage's name was the Narzissenkreuz Institute. So you have the Narzissenkreuz Ordo, the Narzissenkreuz Institute, the Narzissenkreuz Adventure Team, the Kingdom of Narzissenkreuz. But do you think the Narzissenkreuz Institute is the Institute of Natural Philosophy that we just were outside of, that we had to come through in order to enter this room through the book? I mean, that would somewhat make sense. And that makes sense why it's all abandoned, too. But it's not the same location as Anapausis. Unless this location, this mysterious location that we entered through the book, is in the same location as Anapausis, because technically it could be anywhere in the map. But I don't know. Narzissenkreuz. These are all Marechaussee Phantom files that Mr. Algae recorded for testing light sensitivity while designing me. Okay, so Algae is the one who designed Seymour, that's right. The output is via my image-to-text-to-speech module. According to eyewitness testimony regarding who I suspect to be Lyris, there shouldn't be any problems. And you may have heard of this elsewhere, but it's worth mentioning again. Elaine and Marianne were orphans in the care of the Narzissenkreuz Institute before the Marechaussee Hunter, Emmanuel Guillotine, took them in. Oh, so they're siblings, and they were taken in by a guy with the last name Guillotine. Okay. And they were orphans at this institute. No, I did not hear that elsewhere, so thank you for recapping that for me. That's actually a huge linking up piece of information that fills a gap in my brain. Thank you, Seymour. Thank you, Seymour. Don't mention it, noble sir. That was actually extremely helpful. See, I was so confused before. Now they're actually starting to put together information that is kind of helpful. I'm starting to understand what's going on.
like you've changed a lot since we met in the Fortress of Maripede, Caterpillar.
Would a 5-year-old child and a 15-year-old teenager be the same? Perhaps returning here simply reminds me of the past, and of who I used to be. Time is frozen in the fortress. Being locked up in there for a day, or 100 years, I'm afraid it made no difference to me. Lenoir is what made time flow for me. Watching her grow reminded me that time still passes, and life is still being born, shining brilliantly, and then being extinguished. And so I changed as well. That said, my past self, the person I was before I met her, would certainly be more helpful to Anne and Seymour in our current situation.
That's true.
Don't be like that, Paimon. Just think about it. Making up stories for Lenoir was nothing more than putting such ways of thinking to good use. Regardless, it has nothing to do with the current situation. You look like you still have questions, Teddy. Since we have our own suspicions about Anne and Lyris' relationship, we have topics of discussion that can be used to refute or sustain those conjectures. Okay, how do Oceanids reproduce? I'm sure you have friends more knowledgeable than I regarding that. Perhaps you can even find scholars of natural philosophy who've dedicated research to the question. Or you could have asked the Oceanids you know personally. But you asked me. Of course, I know what you mean. So this is your speculation. I see.
Paimon doesn't get it.
When we exchanged information earlier, Teddy mentioned that Anne is the person in Marianne's dream. Or perhaps she might be a manifestation made by Marianne, an Oceanid.
Oceanid. Why the repetition? Are you just trying to make it sound cuter?
Apologies. Perhaps my description was ill done. Still, can an Oceanid create an Oceanid creature version of an Oceanid?
Wow, that's deep. That's like us asking if hard candies can be used as the filler for another hard candy. So what would you say to that? This question's really interesting, but Paimon's hungry for answers.
I see. You're saying Anne is a manifestation of, or is sort of like the manifestation of Marianne's dreams, but is also like a mitosis like version of Marianne herself? Like mitosis? I guess is that how Oceanids reproduce? Is like mitosis? Or not mitosis, but you know, like a similar process to that. Very existential questions indeed. I suppose I'd have to say, I suppose so. Still, you may not realize just how deep this rabbit hole goes. So let me explain, okay? How much deeper can it go? You might be confused as to why there are Oceanid creatures with personalities in the Anaposis. If Oceanids can create Oceanid creatures, then they can create Oceanid humans, or can they create Oceanid humans or Oceanid Oceanids? Convention dictates that it's rare for Oceanids to be able to mimic a human, unless the human drowns in their arms, or the Oceanid has spent extensive time with the person and knows everything about them. And the Oceanid in question must have also have tremendous wisdom and compassion. I'm afraid perhaps only one as powerful as Rodea could do it. Well, we know Rodea, and she definitely creates all of these different, like, animal creatures and stuff like that. So, yeah, super powerful.
Wow, so that means Adia must be incredibly strong.
Ooh. That's probably a line of dialogue you only get if you played the Valyria Mirage thing. Well, if we're counting the Valyria Mirage stuff, then obviously, yeah, Oceanus can be pretty strong because she basically had all these Hydro-Eidolon, like, familiars that became all of these different humans in the Mirage, right? Or did Alice help her with that? I can't remember now. Did Adia do that herself, or did Alice help her? Also, this is a really cool shot. Where is the light coming through from this window? Is that sunlight from outside? Because I thought we're underwater right now. But that looks like light, like from above ground. So it's rare to mimic humans, but not impossible. Now creating another Oceanid, that's different. Creating humans using human knowledge can only be achieved by gods, and the same applies to Oceanids creating Oceanids. It usually should be impossible, in this world at least, unless unless this human or Oceanid has already placed themselves above their own kind and attempted such insanity. So you're suggesting you would take an Oceanid god to create more Oceanids, which we know from Egeria creating the Oceanids as her familiars. But,
You mean they thought they'd become a god?
That's right. Followers blindly believe in their leaders, who in turn blindly believe in themselves, giving rise to delirium and delusions. I can do what a god can do. Their deeds are not that great after all. A powerful belief is also a powerful will, and magic is a skill that molds reality to your own will. Perhaps the descendant hypothesis makes more sense. What does that mean? Perhaps Marianne doesn't consider herself an Oceanid type? Perhaps with the descent. What is this? Perhaps. It's possible and quite understandable too. I'm kind of lost. What's the descendant? Oh, I guess this is the theory of like the Oceanids creating the mimics or the. Actually, now that I'm sitting here, I'm actually more confused. If nothing else, the Lyris I know doesn't have this kind of intelligence, nor would she be this crazy. I have some less mainstream ideas about how Oceanids reproduce, but they're not important. We can discuss them later. Well, maybe they are important, but I also agree we can probably discuss them when the time comes to discuss them, if that's what works out better, because I probably won't be able to retain it until I see it happen.
Night Teddy, I remembered the name Marianne.
What is it?
It's familiar to me because it's from a children's story. The same one that the Red Empress comes from. The female lead, Lydell, was mistaken for Marianne, the servant, and Marianne never appeared throughout the entire story. Maybe Marianne never really existed, except in a figment in someone's dreams.
Well, there was definitely a person named Marianne who was real. I guess the question is the Marianne who is real the same as the Marianne in the Anapostis as the whole? And I guess are they the same Marianne from the story who apparently was not actually in the story? Okay.
How do you know about this story, Anne? And isn't that a good question? How do I know about it? The memory feels more vivid than those I have of the story of the evil dragon, Narcissus.
Okay. Now, let's reorganize the information that everyone just recalled. This might take quite some time, and might be somewhat hard on our throats. Yeah? I'll bet as the person giving all of you voices. I'm ready. So, regarding Elaine's younger sister Marianne, the Anapostis' Marianne, the Red Empress Lyris, and the Anne who's with us, what will our conclusion be? How will we sustain it, and how shall we refute it? Everyone gathers. Okay. Good question. Thank you for taking the lead on this, Caterpillar. I'm getting into this. This is storytelling. I'm getting into this now. It's kind of confusing, but it feels like we're solving a mystery, and it's sort of the satisfaction of seeing the puzzle pieces come together. And also just building upon the Fontaine lore. Like, this is this huge gap in the lore that I've had for a while, and it's completing the picture of everything here in Fontaine, really. Is there anything else you feel we should add? As I mentioned before, Marianne is not only the princess in Anne's story, but she is also the person I must protect. She is the younger sister of Elaine Guillotine, the one who designed me, 4ACV07. As for matters concerning me, I suppose you already know all about them, Night Teddy.
Speaking of which, didn't we also hear all sorts of stuff while we were in Elenas? Seymour was also damaged during that time.
How did it go? Did you think of anything? About the damage to Seymour and Elenas.
That's right! Seymour was damaged inside Elenas, and Mamer's been taking care of him.
To my shame, yes. Though I do not have such emotions, you can see it as me having lowered my assessment of myself. Oh, don't. No, that's okay, Seymour. I mean, the important thing is you're alive and well now, and you're still doing your job. I don't know. There's not much I can do to comfort someone who knows that the person that they were supposed to protect is probably already dead from it just being a few hundred years. I don't think I can. Anyway.
And according to Elenus, the battle that occurred within his body ended quite terribly.
Evidently, that was the battle that damaged you, and it was an incredibly fierce one. But considering that you were damaged, then your master might have been... Common sense dictates that the fate of the fate of Marianne Guillotine, sister of Alain Guillotine, was most likely a grim one. But this world is filled of tales of loyal knights who exchanged their lives for a miracle. Oh, so this is Caterpillar, sorry. But this world is full of tales of loyal knights who exchanged their lives for a miracle. So you needn't grieve too much, Seymour. Seymour appears to have entered data fragment sorting mode out of pure shock. Aww. It's okay, give Seymour some time to process.
But your master, Marianne, was an ordinary human being, wasn't she? And the time that has passed since then far surpasses the lifespan of any human.
How did it go? Did you think of anything? The Red Empress Lyris. She was an important figure in the Narzissenkreuz Ordo, and she is also the other Oceanid involved in the tale, apart from Miss Anne. One of only 2 Oceanids, and we also just agreed that we believe there must be an Oceanid behind Anapasis. But her traits don't match those of the Marianne we encountered.
Could it be that Lyris's imagination was behind everything? Even me?
That's unlikely. Seymour mentioned that her intelligence was quite limited, so phantoms of this sort be quite hard for her. Similar to how an author would struggle to write a character more intelligent than themselves. In fairy tales, the kitten may dream of their living little master. But I fear such things don't happen much in real life.
So who was behind all this? And who in the world is that Marianne?
And the last thing, the Oceanid Anne.
What about me again? We once suspected that you might have been the person that Marianne dreamed of. So, in your view, Marianne is the Oceanid behind the curtain, yes? I don't know.
Well then, do you find the name Lyris familiar? She is, after all, the only Oceanid involved in this apart from yourself.
If you mean the title, the Red Empress, then yes, I do have some impression of it.
That should be it. The Marianne in Anapasis.
That makes her a prime suspect then.
To be honest, were you using the process of elimination? You actually already guessed as much long ago. So Marianne in Anapasis is the Oceanid. Something happened in Elenus that we're not fully aware of, because she was human, but now she's an Oceanid? Could Lyris be the one hugging the tower, though, in Anapasis? I mean, it looks like whoever that is looks like they're crying, so, I mean. You're right, but you do already have a version of the story in your heart. Your own interpretation, yes? If that's the case, then we should go find that Marianne and see for ourselves. Please permit me to change the topic for a moment. Does this mean that I shall no longer be able to fulfill my orders to protect Marianne?
We've worked out this much, and that's the only bit you care about?
Well, yeah. Well, Seymour's a robotic dog. The robot has a set of instructions. Even though Seymour is capable of a limited, consciousness and thinking for himself, it's probably hard on him to not be able to fulfill the one thing he was programmed to do.
It may be cruel, but from the moment we discovered that the Guillotine siblings were from centuries ago, it was probably inevitable.
Correction. So, the conclusion would be that it was my incompetence that exposed Marianne to danger? No, not true.
Do not blame yourself. You have fought to the point of destruction. You have done your part.
There's no need to be so pessimistic either. Though that is an odd thing to say to a machine.
Yeah, It's like pouring Fontaine into a sink and then saying, "Sink, you'll get fat if you keep drinking like this."
Oh. 4ACV07. I can't believe you actually remembered that. Well, it's his legal name. What is it, Mr. Caterpillar? Why use my official designation? We may not have reached any conclusions, but we now know what to do next. Look, there is a Marianne in Anapostis, and she also has close links to the Narzissenkreuz Ordo. My long-term memory module confirms this. As such, there's no need to restore your logic module to factory settings yet. Let's take a step back. We can still go and find this Marianne. Thank you for your logical troubleshooting and emotional adaptive maintenance. I think what you said makes sense. It is not yet time to admit defeat and restore myself to my initial settings in order to take on a new mission.
Yeah, that's right, you silly doggy.
Let's leave things here for a while then. Once you're ready, we can continue. Why don't we go find this Marianne? Let's solve that mystery before tackling the Narzissenkreuz Ordo issue. I concur, because it seems like all the characters here standing within the Narzissenkreuz Ordo location itself were brought together by, well, their own reasons, but Marianne has been a central connecting figure between everybody here. I think understanding who she is and her role in the story is also may help us, at the very least, bring closure, but it also might give us more information on how to stop this disaster, just like by proxy too. The fact that this is, a connector piece of a connector lead, I guess.
I'd really like to figure that one out too. After all, it might explain where I come from.
My logic module agrees that this is the correct course of action.
So, shall we go then?
Yeah. Go search in the Algae Sea. Go and find Marianne in Anapostis. Where? Let's see. Well, we couldn't get back to the little... Here's the thing, we couldn't get back to the little cottage. We can only get back to this castle. Like, if I go here, for example, I can absolutely see the little cottage there, but there's no way for us to get back to there right now. Until now. It appears that now we can. Let's see.
This is where we met with Petit Chou and Al and the others.
This is so cool.
We're back again. This time, I must... Marianne.
That's the spirit, Miss Anne. In truth, I must confess to being somewhat jealous of you. You still hold out hope of recovering your past. I've been searching for centuries, but I haven't found a thing. So please, do your best for this old caterpillar's part as well, alright? Figure your past self out and come to accept your present self.
Yep, I will. Yay, that's the spirit.
Okay, let's see. Unless the Marianne we met is Lyris.
Buddies! You've returned! Whoa, what are these guys doing here again? Wait, isn't that Al's group?
Oh, yes, it is us. And you are Night Teddy and Paimon? It's really good to see you. So good that I can't control myself anymore. Please dodge to the best of your ability. She asked us to send you a message. Now let us take out her handwritten letter with my hands, which are much like yours, yellow and white ones. I don't want to hear your stories. I prefer my version. Okay, so this is just them giving us a high five, is that correct? Is that the lore here? Is that what we're doing? You guys are so silly. Okay. They've lost control? Wait, they've lost control? I thought the whole thing is Zala's just giving them us a high five. Let's see.
was here before it's gone too.
Well, it was Princess Lyris's magic. That's just how the story goes. Let me think of a way. Close your eyes, everyone. Okay, closing them. Okay, I can't read the words if I'm closing them. A temporary optical sensor shutdown. Understood. They'll be reactivated on your command.
Wait, why do you have to do that?
The essence of a mime is pretense. The charade that something is still here. And belief is the magic of the heart of magic. The faith that there is meaning here. So let's close our eyes. So, Anne, begin imagining what it would look like if that bubble was still here. Okay. You close your eyes and feel some sort of fluctuation. I prefer the story of the Narzissenkreuz adventure team sitting down happily for tea time after their adventure has ended.
Wow, it really appeared. I know, me too. I wish that they could be happy like that forever.
But alas, that's not the story that we have. Well, but it will always be like that in the fantasy version, so we can cling on to that at least. The Ordo called this step the process of imagining things in such detail, imaging.
Let's go over and have a look.
Enter the bubble. Up we go! Here we are.
Huh? It's the entrance that disappeared this time.
Well, I'm assuming we can probably make it appear the way we just made the bubble appear, right?
And do you know how to make the portal? Can you do your imaging thing on it?
Alright, let me give it a try. You close your eyes and a lonesome silence comes over you. But everyone's left. They won't come back no matter how long I wait. I can't... It seems...
Wait, why? How am I supposed to see Marianne then?
I suspect that this is because the portal has lost its meaning, and thus cannot be recreated. From what you told me before, the entrance that was once placed here led to a story that had been yet to be written. Now that she has said everything she wanted to, the story no longer has any meaning. Marianne is rejecting our answer, and that is why the way in is shut.
Does this mean you're going to return empty-handed?
It does seem so. I wouldn't say we're completely out of luck. Oh, what do you have to say?
Did you notice something we didn't then, Night Teddy?
I heard something while Anne was imaging.
I did hear something then. So you can hear it too? Would that be Marianne's real thoughts?
What did you two hear? Might be best not to discuss personal secrets here. The walls might have ears and all. Let's head back before talking about this. Okay, we go all the way back to the Narzissenkreuz Ordo with our teleport waypoints. No doubt. So, could you tell us what you heard? Perhaps a Hilichurl might hear something that humans and Oceanids will not, just as how dogs and humans are different in that regard. I must correct your statement. My auditory components can indeed pick up higher and lower frequencies as compared to humans. However, I am not a dog. Moreover, a dog's low-frequency hearing is similar to that of a human. Is that so? Well, I was talking about real dogs, not you, 4ACV07.
Silly dog. That said, I didn't think you would hear it too, Night Teddy. I wonder if we heard the same thing.
But everyone's left. They won't come back no matter how long I wait.
Looks like we heard the same thing. I suspect that this was the inner voice of Marianne.
Did she say anything else? I'm not trying to invade anyone's privacy or anything. I just think that we're onto something here with you mentioning these words.
Let me think. After that, I also heard something like, I prefer the story of the Narzissenkreuz adventure team sitting down happily for tea time after their adventure has ended. And then, I don't want to hear your stories. I prefer my version.
it was the other way around for us. It started with, I only want to hear my version, right? That was the first one? That was when we fought Al and Jacques, was the first one. Yeah, so I heard it in the backwards order that Anne heard it. Please state your case. Let's think our own thoughts first. Perhaps we really might come to some conclusion. Okay. Well, my conclusion is that I heard it in this different order than Anne did. I am very sorry. I may be unable to offer any logical support at this time. My listening equipment cannot hear inner voices. Oh, don't worry, you helped plenty already. Could you tell me your assessment? Is the Marianne from Anapostis the person I am meant to protect or not? I don't know. I mean, she's definitely not the same human. And I couldn't really get a good sense of her personality or the things that she was saying to connect to the person you seemed to be protecting. So I don't know. I don't think she is. But I do think she is. I don't know. I trust your judgment. However, I prefer the story of the Narzissenkreuz adventure team sitting down happily for tea time after their adventure has ended. It seems that she, too, was an orphan from the Narzissenkreuz Institute, but other relevant information cannot be matched to her. Logical error. Data fragment sorting initiated. Deep in thought. Me too.
My Teddy.
Is there anything else you want to say?
I'm just an Oceanid who doesn't know anything, and I'm really bad at thinking. Even if you just told me a random story, I'd still believe it all, hook, line, and sinker. The world is too complicated after all, and I'm not experienced enough to spot any holes.
Well, I wouldn't do that.
Thank you, Night Teddy. I think that the Marianne in Anapostis is the same as me. She might look smart, but she doesn't want to accept this complicated world, so she chooses to protect herself with fairy tales. But even fairy tales must end.
Yeah, I think so. A grown-up who doesn't want to be a grown-up. I can relate to that so much. You don't seem to want to link the two of them together. Neither elimination nor enumeration is very fair to Anne. What a coincidence. I happen to agree. But I have some other thoughts to share too, though they may have nothing to do with the next step in our reasoning. Are you willing to listen? I'm listening. Earlier, we broached the topic of Oceanid reproduction. It's a huge taboo for Oceanids to mimic and transform into one of their own kind, just as it is for humans to create humans. But you see, humans can create humans through love. Go, pursue eternity not through mystery, but love. What if by some chance this mysterious method of Oceanid reproduction is accomplished through imagination and mimicry? Perhaps their regret or remorse gives birth to a thought, and as they imagine the new path that could have been taken, a new Oceanid is born. That would make sense for Anne, the Oceanid that we have here, as Marianne mentioned something about Anne being born from her dreams and wishes and longing to go on that fantasy adventure. Perhaps the regret and remorse gives birth to a new thought, and as they imagine a new path that could have been taken, a new Oceanid is born. That would line up with what we know about Anne so far. That's a very interesting idea. I mean, it's just a theory, but so far it adds up. We'll never know. After all, it's a secret passed down amongst Oceanids only. In any case, we'll begin once you're ready. Let's begin. I've talked with everybody. Okay, this morning Paimon ate... I don't know why I can't get this out of my mind. This can't really be foreshadowing, can it? I hope it's not. If that is a little detail I was supposed to remember, that's so funny. The Red Empress Lyris. A member of the Narzissenkreuz Ordo from several hundred years ago. Her whereabouts afterwards are unknown. She is also the only Oceanid involved other than Anne. The talkative Marianne, from the Anapausis, Marianne, who wove a fairy tale without an ending. She refuted our visit, but she mentioned her memories from the Narzissenkreuz Institute. It sounded like she was waiting for everyone to return to the Institute ruins. Okay. Marianne Guillotine, who was the human person, the one that Seymour was supposed to protect. Something happened in Elenis, resulting in Seymour's damage and her disappearance. Where is she? And what is her relationship with Marianne from the Anapausis? Okay, nothing new from that. The memories of the Narzissenkreuz Institute. The only person who grew up in the Narzissenkreuz Institute and has a matching background is Marianne Guillotine. Marianne has Marianne Guillotine's memories. That is correct. Marianne is that younger sister. If so, then Marianne is Marianne Guillotine. They have the same name and matching memories. The memories of waiting in the ruins. The person who once waited within the deserted ruins for everyone's return was Lyris, the former director. Do you think... Caterpillar mentioned earlier something about an Oceanid can take the form of a human that dies in their arms. Do you think Lyris was at Elenis? And if Marianne died there, then she took on Marianne's form? And that's how you have Marianne the Oceanid? Because Marianne was not originally an Oceanid, and Lyris was not originally a human. Now we have a human with blue hair, which indicates that they are an Oceanid of some kind, who is Marianne. Is Lyris Marianne? Did they, become this, is this Lyris with Marianne's body and memories? That sounds kind of creepy if I say it like that. That would actually make a lot of sense, because there's two characters that seem to have bits and pieces that match the person we're looking for. Marianne with her memories, and Lyris with her powers. But Lyris was said to not be very intelligent, and Marianne was not an Oceanid. But if you fuse the two of them together somehow... Oh my gosh, is that it? Did we just figure it out? Did I figure it out before I put the conclusions together? Director Lyris's memories. Marianne has Lyris's memories. Marianne has Marianne's memories. Marianne has Lyris's memories. Oh my gosh, we solved it. We solved it. It's the two of them are together now. Are they the same person? They weren't originally the same person, it seems. Have they become the same person? Marianne is Lyris. If so, then Marianne is Lyris. Another piece of evidence we have is that they can both use Oceanid powers to control Anapausis. The identities are contradictory. But how can she be both people at the same time? This must mean that Lyris, an Oceanid, probably has special powers. Do I link it back to this? What idea do I link it back to that's not folding in on itself? This led to this, which led to this, but this also led to this. So the only option is to pick this, which is not it, probably. It is it? Oh my gosh. Dissolving the which one was this? A member of the Narzissenkreuz Ordo. Her whereabouts after this are unknown. She was also the only other Oceanid. Dissolving the personality and will. Oh my gosh. Her job in the Ordo was to dissolve the members' egos. Oh, you meant literally. I thought that was some metaphor for something. You meant actually... I guess maybe they thought it was a metaphor. Maybe she was actually using magic to what do you mean dissolve their egos? Like change their personalities? What could have happened between her and the missing Marianne Guillotine? Lyris and Anne. For some reason, Lyris dissolved Marianne Guillotine's personality, and afterwards their wills, now mixed, began to dream. Oh my gosh, they are the same person. They dreamed, this is they together, dreamed of a simple world where the princess is saved and the evil dragon gets killed, while the heroes are always pressing onward. They dreamed of a world where everything was simple and had an answer as long as Anne was there. Thus Anne and Marianne were born. That was a really cool mental exercise there, I'm not gonna lie. We've put the pieces of a case that were floating all over the Algae Sea back together. It's just an empty box even after being put together, but we finally figured out what the lost pearl what lost pearl? What are you talking about, Caterpillar? We just went through the mental hoops and literally twisting in on itself to figure out a conclusion. What do you mean lost pearl? Oh, this is a metaphor. Okay. I thought you were introducing some new piece of information, and I'm like, no, I don't think my brain can take it. That was already a huge conclusion jump we had to make.
What are you trying to say, Caterpillar? Wait, don't give Paimon any hints. She's gonna figure this out on her own. We pieced together a good guess with the clues, but the truth is still unproven.
Of course, my speech analysis module has determined that Miss Paimon is correct. Actually, I meant that we may never know the truth, but I'm afraid we have no choice but to accept this conjecture.
So, my Teddy, is this the secret of my birth? I'm afraid I can't accept something like this right away.
I understand, Miss Anne. It's a shocking fact, and it will require you to accept yourself again. But I don't think it should be that difficult to do so. After all, knowing your past does not require abandoning everything about the present. I do not understand the specific context of this discussion, but I would like to add that I do not believe I am different from how I was before suffering disc damage. Even though you insist on addressing me as a silly dog, my identification number is still 4ACV07.
Come on, it's not that serious. I promised Night Teddy that I would accept this conclusion, as long as it's reasonable.
Then I have a suggestion, one that will resolve Miss Anne's quandary and put a stop to Narzissenkreuz's plans.
Narzissenkreuz?
Wait, what plans? Are we talking about like the apocalypse we were talking about?
Narcissen... Oh, Paimon remembers now. You mentioned him before, Caterpillar. Just who is he, huh?
Well, simply put, the leader of the Narzissenkreuz Ordo.
Whoa, sounds like he's got an impressive resume. But isn't the Narzissenkreuz Ordo always up to no good? Wouldn't that make him the nastiest of the lot?
Of course. During my time with my master, creator, and the other Marechaussee hunters, we devoted most of our time to hunting the Ordo down. As I said before, the goal of the Ellenis operation was to capture or eliminate Narzissenkreuz as well. However, my memory does not contain any intelligence regarding his involvement. That's a given. Looking back on it now, he was merely using us as bait. And I wasn't the only one. It was the same for Jacob, Lyris, and many others in the Ordo. I'm afraid the Ellenis operation was probably never more than a red herring, with the goal of leading you and Guillotine away to buy him time to execute his true plans. Remember the doomsday clock I mentioned? Yeah, that seems to be the biggest problem right now.
It's what the Ordo considers the countdown to the apocalypse, right?
To be more precise, it's the apocalypse as calculated by the world formula. This planet itself should survive just fine, though. The beasts of the stars shall drink the amniotic fluid of the world dry, 100 years more, and all surface life shall be wiped away. This definitely sounds like a different disaster than the other apocalyptic catastrophe we eliminated in Fontaine. Once life on the surface is wiped out, only that which is underwater will remain. Can a planet full of fish eventually rise up to the ocean of stars?
The thought of all the terrestrial life going extinct is pretty spooky, but when you say things like that, it does give things a romantic ring.
It's the head of a Yai publishing house novel from a few years back. My mare brought it back to the village to learn to paint.
Oh, Oh, no wonder.
Anyways, for myself and the others gathered here, though the Narzissenkreuz Ordo is a source of our troubles, its objective and Narzissenkreuz's great purpose are actually completely selfless. He only took the actions he did because he calculated the coming of the apocalypse. He wishes to save the world. So sort of like how Thanos very selfishly wanted to save the universe by eliminating half of all living things in order for there to be enough resources for the remaining people. And he was selfless enough to take it upon himself to go through the trouble, the trials and tribulations to do this. Is that what we're talking about here? Because if so, it's probably not a good idea. So is the world really on the verge of destruction? I believe this to be a pathological delusion caused by paranoia. Were the apocalypse real, would you be able to forgive Narzissenkreuz? No, it's a bit too early to consider such things. You have yet to understand what happened to you, Anne. It's hard to say whether or not people in general would forgive Narzissenkreuz, because such a thing has not come to pass, nor is there any proof that the actions taken were necessary. What did Narzissenkreuz do? Just causing trouble, right? I'm still confused. What did the Ordo actually do? What were they actually up to? And as for you, Seymour, your hostility is a result of your programming and the duties it imposes. I suppose we must find the Holy Blade of Narzissenkreuz. The Holy Blade of Narzissenkreuz? I'm talking about the real one, of course. As much as it may be quite strange to say that the ceremonial sword of a magic society is real. Not only will it help us to stop Narzissenkreuz's plans, but its unique powers may be able to undo the merging of wills. We should be able to separate Lyris and Marianne, and then, Miss Anne, you can defeat the evil dragon, Narcissus, and rescue Princess Lyris. Interesting. It's interesting how this is all coming together. Regardless, let's get moving first. That's the spirit. It might take some time to explain, so let's move up first and I'll explain when we get there. Get where? Where are we going? We're entering this region now. We're entering the region where the big tower is. Where all the stuff, I assume, is going down. Atmospheric visibility is acceptable today. Enough that you can see the tower over there, yes? That I can. I passed by it earlier, actually. Yeah, you can see this tower from pretty much anywhere in Fontaine, yes. That building was once known to the Narzissenkreuz Ordo as the Tower... Oh my gosh. The Tower of Ipsissimus. But we would later call it the Tower of Gestalt. It was named for the idea that the things have been separated need to be combined to display their original complete form. But I suppose I might be speaking in reverse. The heart was complete to begin with, and the mistake was to divide it up for separate study.
Paimon didn't get a thing you just said.
It's fine, don't worry about it. Plays on words are also a trick that mysterious organizations enjoy pulling. What matters is what we must do next. Some of the vocabulary you use is missing from my semantic indexes, so could not properly parse your meaning, but I understood the last sentence. Please tell me what I should do. While investigating alone, I found a map of the seal of the chemical chemical marriage. I'm reading words that are not actually there a lot. You could say I've found 4 seals. Of course you have. Oh my gosh. Fantastic. And this tower is one of the locations? That's not the place we need to go. That said, though, who can be sure? Perhaps our destinies will yet take us there in the future. Either way, we need to use the position of the tower to locate the other 4 places. That's why we've come here first.
So what are those 4 seals for? That said, we've discovered from experience that you should just practice to just break the seals and then give whatever ringleader we find a good walloping.
As for me, I'd like to restore the Holy Blade of Narzissenkreuz. Cool, a new weapon. It's more for ceremonial use, but it could be used as a weapon, I guess. Well, I suppose we could also just call it the answer. As I've said before, the Narzissenkreuz Ordo once had a ceremony to remove the ego and will. The Holy Blade was used in that ritual. I remember something about that. Do I? Please explain, Ether. If Lyris and Marianne's wills created Anne, and if the old me was placed in some hilichurl's body... Well, wait, you weren't originally a hilichurl? You were turned into a hilichurl and then you turned back into a human? Oh my gosh, this is fascinating to me. This is fascinating because this is like a whole like new world within the world of Genshin Impact, it feels like almost here.
Wait a minute. Didn't we already find the Holy Blade of Narzissenkreuz?
Well, he just said we're looking for the real one this time. What, really?
Look.
A wooden sword. It's the wooden sword we found during our adventures. Yes, so it is.
Hey, what kind of reaction is that?
Perhaps you can think of it like this. That's a wooden sword found in the Narzissenkreuz Institute, named the Holy Blade of Narzissenkreuz. That makes it more important than any ordinary wooden sword. Perhaps it might even be of use when the time is right, just like the Holy Blade in the story.
Really? You don't need to try to make us feel better.
Got it, let's go. There are 4 seals in total. If my hypothesis is correct, then they should be at these locations respectively.
Huh? These 4 locations?
We've been to some of them before during our adventures. Are these things I've interacted with when I did that one stream that was like Mort region, catching up and like clearing through everything? It's very likely. Chances are higher than you think. I've probably been there and I just didn't know what it was or couldn't interact with it at the time. We've been to some of them before during our adventures. I see, and did you find anything there? You describe your adventures there. I see. This proves 2 things. Firstly, my hypothesis is accurate.
And the other?
Secondly, the situation is grim. We need to get moving and see if we still have a chance to turn things around. Wait, we're only getting the Act 1 here kind of thing now?